You are starting this exciting new chapter in your life, Maya. You recently moved to Massachusetts. I know you grew up in New Jersey, went to college in New Jersey, and now you made this decision to start a new adventure. So tell us a little bit about what took you out of New Jersey and brought you to Massachusetts.
I knew I wanted to be in a city of some sort, but I wanted to be somewhere new, somewhere different. And I knew that Boston had a lot of great schools and a lot of great hospitals in the area to do research and to work with physicians. So I looked up a couple of the programs, and the master's program at Tufts Med is a really great program to prepare students for medical school. And so I applied, and it's funny because I actually didn't think that I was going to be accepted. I had faced a couple of rejections from other programs, similar status and prestige. So by the time I had gotten through those decline letters, I was kind of down and out on myself about it, and I was making, plan Bs and second plan. And then when I got the acceptance, I just knew that it was where I was meant to be. I was so happy and so excited. So I accepted right away and just said, I'm going for it. This is where I'm going. And just meeting really great people who have similar interests and people from different backgrounds. And so I'm just really excited to be in Boston, to be in a new place, and excited for the opportunities to meet other physicians and kind of, get going on my career.
Well, exciting. I look forward to seeing what your present and your future bring for you in this super exciting new place. Let's go back into the past a little bit though and talk about senior year. You're a senior at Rutgers, you're taking the leadership class with me. Can you sum up a little bit of what that class meant for you, how it helped you move forward as you left Rutgers?
So I think it's really great that it's designed to take, that course in our senior year, because for me, and I think for most of my classmates, it provided a space for us to be really introspective, a space for us to look inside of ourselves and think about how we've grown over our last few years at Rutgers, and then also what we've learned and what we want to take with us into our professional lives or further education. And so I learned a lot in that class about myself, about the way that I work in groups, and the way that other people work, and a lot of things about communication and just being able to adjust to different working styles, to different lifestyles, to different backgrounds. So I really appreciated the course because it gave me a great insight into what it's going to be like going into our professional lives now.
I'm so happy to hear that those are some of the things that have stood out to you about the leadership course. I know the focus that we want to talk about today is really about how we view our mistakes. And I know like failure is an F word, right? But it's just considered such a, I don't know, it's almost like people don't want to say that they failed. It's a hard thing to admit that I failed at something because so much of it is attached to our sense of worth. However, I think the message we want to share today is that we can reframe mistakes and failures as opportunities. So why don't you share a little bit more about that? What is it that you hope, whether it's a student listening, what it could be a Rutgers student or a student somewhere else, or even a student of life, what is it that you want to share with them about making mistakes?
I think there's two major things. One, that my dad always said to me was control the controllables and adjust to the rest. So that's the first thing, which I'll come back to. And the other is that nothing in life, and I can't take credit for this quote, but is that nothing in life happens to you, everything in life happens for you, right? And that distinction is really important. So just to start there, it's that I think in college and just in general, as we grow and we are in transition periods, it's really easy to make mistakes or to try new things that may not turn out the way that we had hoped or we thought. And so then it's easy to get down on ourselves about making certain decisions that didn't work in our favor. But I think that the important part about that is how we react to those situations, how we bounce back from them, but also how we take the time to consider, like my dad would say, what part of the situation can we control and what's out of our control. I think all emotions are valid and important to acknowledge, and so it's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel even regret at times. It's okay to feel embarrassment, all of those things. But it's also even more important to consider, okay, I've let those feelings settle. I've acknowledged them. Now, how do I take that energy and move forward?
What you're saying is true. And it's a big life lesson that everybody has to learn. But let's make it practical, because it's one of those things that can stay, yes, up there with we need to exercise and get enough sleep and eat right. One of those things we know we should do. We know we shouldn't get lost in our failures and grow from them, but let's bring it to real life. Is there an example that you're willing to share where there was a moment in your life where you thought, okay, this was a major mistake, this was something that I failed at, but you were able to reframe that narrative and make it so that you were growing and learning from it?
So in high school, I had done very well, and academically and socially, I felt very successful and accomplished. And going into my freshman year, I think I had some of that confidence that, okay, I'll do well in all of these courses and everything will be fine. And my first semester, I really struggled a lot academically. I was failing exams left and right. I was just not able to, find a stable footing and just do well in most of my courses. And so to bring it into practical terms, my sophomore year, I decided, okay, what actionable steps, I'm all about the action steps. What steps am I going to take to stop crying about my first semester or my second semester? And it started from the little things. So I think for me, I'm a big journaler. So I would just journal every single morning, all of my thoughts, and get all of that out. So let me go back a little bit just to say that, yes, it was an academic struggle I was having, but sometimes it takes really being introspective and realizing it's more than just your academics. It's not that I can't study, but it's that I'm in a new environment and I'm trying to keep up with everybody around me, and I'm doing things that are not making me feel like myself. But if I can get back to a place where I feel more centered, then maybe everything else will fall into line. And so it's not journaling for everybody. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's calling a friend, or but finding a step or something in your life that keeps you grounded. I think that especially when you're in a rough place, especially when you find yourself dwelling on something a lot, it's important to come outside of that and find something that keeps you grounded.
Like you mentioned, it is going to be unique to every unique individual. For you, journaling, and I was in awe of the discipline that you do this every single day and continue to do that. Now let's go back to the really strong message that your dad shared with you about controlling the controllables. And I feel like that is one of those pearls of wisdom that are handed down throughout the generations. And I can even think of something that my father would share from Alcoholics Anonymous. He's in recovery for alcoholism, and they're part of the big mentality too is, there's only so much within your control. So what are some of the things that you believe we can control?
So for me, some of the very tangible things, like I can control most of the choices I'm going to make. Am I going to study for this hour, or am I going to go hang out with friends? I can control for the most part. Am I going to go to the gym, or am I going to, lay in bed? Which is fine, neither good or bad. It just depends on the day and what your body and you need for yourself. But most times you can control how you are going to spend your time. Another thing is you can control how you react to certain situations, and that it takes a lot of practice, and especially in stressful situations, it takes time to learn, especially if it's not in your natural disposition to be reserved. For some people, like I am, I'm quick to admit that I'm very emotional and very passionate. So I feel things instantly, and sometimes you can see it on my face right away. I'm a crier, so I cry on the drop of a dime. Um, but it's taken me time to learn that you can control how you react to situations. I think there was a time, probably in my freshman year, when I thought that it wasn't in my control. Like, this is just who I am, and you know, that's how it's going to be. And through journaling and meditation and courses like the leadership course and taking time to be introspective, I learned that it is within my control.
Now, the other half of the message your dad was saying was adjust to the rest. So we talked
Yeah.
about controlling the controllables and adjusting to the rest, which is like 99%
Right.
is in this adjusting. We can see that even in the world that we're living in today, how much adjusting and readjusting that we have to do, sometimes even several times in one day.
Yeah.
So share with us a little bit, what are some of the messaging that your dad shared with you, and then also how does that relate into your life, this adjusting to everything else piece?
So for me, moving to a new city amidst a pandemic, a global pandemic, there's a lot of adjusting that I've had to do. A lot of things are closed, so it's not as easy to meet new people. It's not as easy to kind of explore and get out and make new relationships. I've had to adjust to not only meeting people virtually, my classmates and so on, but learning virtually, learning to spend a lot more time by myself, a lot of time, with my own thoughts and my own space, which is good and can be challenging. And so, like we talked about, I have to make the best of it. So whether that means, forming a closer relationship with my roommates, that's been a great thing that's come of it because we're in this together, or spending a lot more time FaceTiming family members and building those relationships again. That's been really, helpful and really beneficial for me. So looking at ways that you can take this situation and make the best of it, and realizing that it's okay, as always, like to feel all the feelings in the adjustment period. It's uncomfortable. It has been uncomfortable. It's been lonely at times, but just I've learned to tell myself that that's okay.
I agree with you that there are opportunities for growth amidst failures and even amidst our biggest mistakes. So if you had to wrap up your message in one sentence, I know you gave that valuable piece of wisdom that your father gave, but if you could wrap up your message in one sentence for the audience, what would your one sentence be?
You are always more than your very worst mistake, and every day is an opportunity to be a better version of yourself.
I do echo those expressions. Those are two very powerful statements. We are so much more than any one mistake we've ever made, even the biggest of mistakes. I agree with you. And I want to ask you too, if you could put your message on a t-shirt,
Yeah.
what would your t-shirt say? And I feel like what you said would be fantastic.
Yeah.
How would you phrase it?
You are more than your worst mistake. You're more than your worst thought.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
You're more than your worst mistake. I
Yeah.
think that's a fantastic t-shirt. Self-care. You've mentioned it today several times as part of our conversations in class. It's very important to me that we carry that message on to everybody that will hear me, everyone under the sound of my voice, whether it's recorded, whether it's live. What is the most recent thing that you did for yourself that was about taking good care of yourself?
I had a series of 4 exams in one day last week, and so that evening there was 2 things I did. One was I muted our class group chat because everybody was talking all night about all the exams and they were stressed about their scores, and it was stressing me out. And it was one of those things where I'm like, all right, I took the exam, so that's no longer in my control. Like, it's in the past. And so I turned off the group chats, and I have to do that very periodically with group chats, with social media, just isolate myself from it and focus on myself. And that night I baked cookies, had a glass of milk, and turned on one of my favorite 90s sitcoms, and just spent the entire night by myself, just enjoying.
Oh my gosh, you have to tell me which sitcom. I love
Moesha. Moesha. Yep.
And Maya, let's say you could go back in time for
Mhm.
15 seconds to talk to your 18-year-old self. What would you say? And remember, you only have 15 seconds.
Okay. I would say, Maya, you always have choices, and you'll be okay no matter what. So um, just do your best in the moment, and you'll figure out the rest, when you cross that bridge.
Yeah. Adjust to the rest.
Yep. Yep. My dad's words keep coming back. Great.
I know. Well, I think, and let me rephrase it, make sure that I got it. He
Yep.
would tell you to control the controllable and adjust to the rest, right?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
Dad's saying. I love it. I think that's a perfect way to conclude our conversation today, is
Yes.
that we all need to remember to control the controllable and adjust to the rest. Well, I hope Massachusetts will be good to you and that you will
Thank
be good for the
you.
environment. It's very exciting to hear that you're embarking on this next phase, bringing you closer to your medical goals. And I look forward to seeing where life takes you, Maya.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure and so good to see you and talk to you. And we'll stay in touch and hopefully connect again soon.